Okay, so let's discuss about how we can do testing with Python. Okay, there is a unit test module in Python. Let's see how we can make use of that. But before we do that, let's look at a little bit of theory to get started. Okay, so what is testing? Basically, testing your code. When you write a function or a class, you can also write test for that code. Testing proves that your code works as it is supposed to in response to the input type it's designed to receive. So what it means is, let's say you define a sum function. Okay, normally we would know that if I'm passing two values to a sum function which is going to do addition, it would do addition if I've written the logic properly, right? But then still we need to verify. A program could be more complex than just adding two numbers, maybe, right? So when you write test, you can be confident that your code will work correctly as more people begin to use your program. So for a test case like adding of two numbers, you might want to pass a different set of numbers. For example, one use case can be that it is supposed to add integers, but you choose to pass integer and float. Then what happens, right? Or negative is accepted, positive are not accepted, or can you add two negative numbers? So all those possibilities you can try. You'll also be able to test new code as you add it to make sure that changes don't break your program's existing behavior. So this is one another important part you need to verify, that suppose you have a existing calculator class, right? So for example, you extend that class and make scientific calculator. So originally, let's say the calculator was just adding numbers. For example, now you also want to add string and a number, right? So in that case, you would not rewrite the whole calculator, but you will extend the existing class, right? That's the use of creating class in a object oriented programming language. And you will create a scientific calculator, and then you will test scientific calculator. But when you are testing scientific calculator, you will use the existing test that you had written for calculator to make sure that what was already working is also working, right? It has not broken. Then every programmer makes mistakes, so every programmer must test their code often, catching problems before user encounters them. Remember one thing that, and this is a fact that, I mean, I'm not sure about the correct percentage or exact percentage, but 80 to 90% of IT industry lives only on maintenance of code, right? A lot of code has been rewritten. So you have big teams which is supporting and maintaining a lot of code. Why? Because there had been issues, there had been bugs, which is a part of a development or a software development process, right? So we will look at how we do testing of a function, how we do testing of a class. Testing of a function is basically wherein you have a function in a class, or rather a module is there. What is a module in Python? It's a simple file with some functions. That is a module, right? Then what is a class? Class is, as we have already seen, it's a class is a collection of attributes and methods, right? You can define methods in a class and you can test that class. So basically, testing of a class means actually testing the functions maybe within the class. Now, when you are testing something, what exactly does it mean? It means that, for example, let's say I open a page here. Okay, so let's say I open a page called Google here. Now if I'm writing let's say some kind of a automation program or a script to load this page for me, right? How does the code verify that I have opened the right page? One way to do it is that I will fetch this title here. Can you see this title at the tab here, Google? I'll fetch it and then I'll compare with the existing value. So there is something called expected value and actual value. Expected is what I'm expecting it to be, and actual is the actual value which the code gives to me, right? So we can compare those values by doing some assertion, or rather, if you take it from the point of view of, let's say, calculator. So suppose when you pass 10 and 20 to a method which adds two numbers, it will return 30, right? So your expected value is 30 and actual is also 30. So you have to say assert equal expected and actual, and then if it is true, it will pass, otherwise fail. So we will look at it from the coding point of view also, right? Okay, I'll bring up my PyCharm and I will show you some existing functions which are there, and then we will look at how we can test those functions. Okay, so let's say I have a function of module here. or a Python file which has a function. So it is name function. So let me go here, name function, right? So this is something which we have already seen how to create functions. I'm not going to do that again here. So I'll be sharing this file with you, and then we'll be writing testing around this. So this is a method which accepts two argument, right? And here I am saying full name equal to first plus last, and then I say full name dot title. So what it does, it will make the first alphabet of the word as, sorry, first alphabet of a word as uppercase, right? Similarly, this is the one which is accepting middle also. So I hope you people will remember that if you also intend to pass three argument, let's say if you don't pass anything for the middle, it will take it as empty, right? So this is we have already seen. And here if middle means if there is a value here, perform if, else perform else, right? So are we clear on this one? Right? Now let's say if I write this function here, from that module which is name underscore function, import first and last. This is the name of the method. I could have written it in the same file, but this is more convenient to modularize the files. So I'm writing a small program. Enter q at any time to quit, right? So I say while true, first input. So it will ask for input. If it is equal to q, break. So first is the first value I'm taking from user, last is the last value I take from the user. And then what I'm saying, get the, in that function, I pass the values as first and last, right? And then eventually I'll display the values of first and last name combined from that function. So let me just run this program and see, and then I'll share this both files with you, and then we'll write testing around it, right? So here at the bottom is asking for first name. So I'll put, let's say, NARESH and then CHAURASIA, right? So it's giving me the output as combined values of first name and last name, right? I'll, let's say, N and then C. So can you see this uppercase, because I had made use of dot title, right? So it will do the upper of first character of that particular string. Now if I want to quit, I can simply enter Q and the program will terminate, right? So I'm mailing these two files to you, and then we will look at how we can do testing. Though it is a very simple program, but still we need to test and verify whether it works the way we expect it to work, right? Okay, so let's look at how we start with the testing. So I'll close this. Now these two files I have already shared with you, right? I will create a copy of this file, and we'll start with this. So let me delete everything here. Okay, now it starts with importing a existing module. So I'll say import unit test, right? So this is a module which comes with the installation of Python. Now apart from that, I'll also install this from, what is the name of my file? It was this one, right? Name underscore function. So I'll say from name underscore function function I'm I am port, what is that method name, this one, right? So I'll import. So this is something which we know of. I'm from that particular module, I'm importing a function, right? Now how we define a class, right? My t test class. And in this, now since I want to make this as a test case, so I have to extend a existing test class. So how do I do it? So I will type here unit test dot test case, test, right? So if I do it like this, then this becomes a class which extends a test case. So this file will become a test case file for me, right? Yes, it's a built-in class. It is, see, it is coming from this module, right? And this is a module which comes as a default module when we install Python, right? We need to import it again separately. Import what? Like we have imported pandas and everything, so we don't. No, so no, so that no, there are two different things. We installed, first we installed pandas, right? because pandas does not come as a default installation or default package. You have to get it using pip. You have to download it and install it on your virtual environment. But unit test is something which comes by default, right? So then how do we create a function in this? So here I'll say def. So we will start since it is a test case we are writing, we'll say test f f name and l name, l name. Okay, and here we put self and I hit enter. Now I'll say f f name underscore l name equal to, I'm going to create I'm going to create what you say, I'm going to call this particular method. Okay, in this I'll pass two values. So I'll say, let's say naresh and then comma single quote, and I'll say CHAURASIA, right? Now, now what I'm going to do here is, let me just reduce the size a little bit. Settings, font. Okay, so now that when I call this function, it will return me Naresh Chaurasia with N uppercase and C as uppercase. Now what I have to also do is that there must be a mechanism for me to verify. Now if I say print of, let's say I do this. Okay, and now in order to run this program, what I am going to do is I am going to say unit test dot main. So what it does, it will execute all the test cases in this particular unit test dot, right. So let's say I run this particular program. I'll say right click, run my file. So it said ran test one test and it says okay. Right now, see, the point here is it had displayed me Naresh Chaurasia with the upper of N and Chaurasia, but my intention is that I want to verify whether N is uppercase and C is also uppercase, right? So this is, I'm visually looking at the code in the output console. This is not the right way of doing it. A little while back I explained to you how we make use of assert, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll say self dot assert is assert equal, right? So one is this value, I'll put it here. This is my actual value and this is my expected value, which is NARESH right? Now if this successfully executes, means if they are equal, then it will show me that my test is successful. So let me try to run it. Right click, run as. So ran one test in and it is okay, means it has successfully got executed. If for example I make it something else, let's say I make it 1 here, meaning that two values are not equal. So let's rerun this. So can you see that test is failed? Yes, can you see here? And it explicitly tells that there is an assertion error, meaning that these two values are not equal. Is that right? So this is a mechanism where when my code is executing, in that I have built a logic to call that function, but how do I actually verify? System.out. Or rather printing of that value is not a solution, right? Printing of a value is like you manually are looking at the console and verifying whether it is correct. But by using self.assert, you are letting code assert the values of one being equal to the another. If they are equal, then your test case will say okay here, else there will be a failure, right? So we have seen that this particular class is having two test methods, 1 and 2, and depending upon whether assert is passing or assert is equal, it's either passing or failing, right? Now there is another what you say concept available in a unit test, that you can also define a setup method. What is a setup method? How do we define is, let's say I said def of set up, okay, and inside this I can do some setup. So for the time being I'll simply say print. Now print connect connect to database. Now what does it mean? Setup is a place which or it's rather a method which is executed before any of the test case is executed, for example. So let me rather create a copy of this one. So let's say I create a copy of this and I make it 3 here. Okay, I'll go inside this. Here now I'm just going to display values. So I'll say print of this, then I'll say print of, let's say I display this, and here also I'm just displaying print of this value, right? So let's try to run this program and see what happens. Run as. So here, as you will see, it is running two test cases only, right? Yes, no, fine. So these are two test cases, meaning that if I want to do some kind of a setup. Setup means connect to database. So let's say self dot connection. Object I define is connect to data, connect to DB. So all this will get executed. So do you see that first of all it displays that it is connect to DB, right, before any of the method is getting executed. So this is a place where you can perform some action with respect to maybe a setup or initialization of some values that you want to use in your subsequent test cases, right? So can you please try to write this setup method and see how it works? So this is the official documentation of unit test. Okay, so unit test framework was originally inspired by JUnit. JUnit is another framework of testing in Java and had similar flavor as major unit testing frameworks in other languages. It supports test automation, sharing of setup and shutdown. So basically sharing of setup means it could be shared across different methods, for example, and shutdown is a piece of method or a code where you can do some cleanup operation, right? So like in setup you connect it to database, shutdown is place where you can disconnect, you can close the connection, for example, right? So to achieve this we have to make use of unit test support some important concept. So we have let's say, let's have a look at this example. This is a very simple example where you have so we have seen already assertion. Okay, let me create a file. So so this is a test case which is having this class, right? And I have defined one method, two method, three method here, right? So in order to verify whether the values are equal, I'll assert it. I'll say foo dot upper and this is going to pass, right? Similarly I'm asserting true of this is upper or not, right? Similarly I can assert with other value once I make it uppercase, and I'll say self dot assert false. So is upper? No, it is not upper, right? And so this will be false. So false will assert with false and it will pass, right? Similarly I can define another case that I'm splitting this one, right? It will split with the help of a space here, and it will convert into a list here with hello and world. And then I can even compare the content of a list with another list with the help of assert function, right? So this is how we can make use of. There is still a lot. So if you will see, there are three test cases run, right? So you can, if you want to check out more, there is a documentation available. You can play around more with this particular module as well. Okay.